Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I want to welcome you to the third week training session on sustainable management of biodiversity. I believe you've been enjoying it thus far. Today, which is the second day in week 3, we're going to go through the welcome and agenda and ice break. And we're also going to have a recap of what we did on Monday. Then, allow me to take us through sequence 2, which is the impact of production systems and agricultural practices on biodiversity, in which we are going to have a plenary session, and we are going to have the difference between the impact of biodiversity at the plot and landscape level in your horticultural farms. This will strictly be applicable to your domain, what you do in your respective farms. And of course, we are going to have the advantages of agroforestry system on your farm. Then we're going to have a break of 5 minutes where you can have time to stretch out, take some water if you like to, and relax. Then we proceed to the breakout session and the plenary session, where we're all going to be divided into 4. Agroforestry system, irrigated cultivation system, organic cultivation system, and agroecological cultivation system. Then we're going to give room for questions and answers, and allow me to also do the summary. Then from there, we'll proceed to the navigation through week 3, what we all are expected to do in the course of this week. And probably we may be need to check through week 2, as some of us have not completed our assignment. With this, I want to welcome you to today's live session. I'm going to briefly unshare my screen now, and I'm going to share again why I show you. I'm going to bring about the ice break. You are welcome on board. I can see you are just joining. All right. For today's ice break, welcome, Chido. For today's ice break, we would like to know what can you deduce from this picture? Can you all see my screen, please?
Yes.
Yeah, may I know what you can see from this picture? What can you deduce?
We can see that 2 people are looking at the same thing, but from different angles, and from different angles, they see different things.
Okay. Over to you, Daniel. May I know what you can deduce from this?
Yeah, if you look at the picture from right, you'll see that there are 3 pieces, but if you look at it from left, it shows there are 4 pieces.
Okay, so you can see that if somebody can see from one angle and is saying 4, the other can see from another angle is saying 3. So what does it interpret to be? That is the question now. Over to you, Chido.
Can you repeat the question again, please?
The question is that what does it interpret to mean? If one person is saying 4 and the same person, another person is saying 3, and you can see the wood on the floor. So what does it interpret to be?
I think the interpretation is that everything, it depends from what angle you are looking at it. So you
Correct.
come up with different
That's fantastic. Okay, may I know your point of view, Daniel?
Yeah, I think as Chido has said, it depends on the angle at which you are looking at an object. The angle might give different perspectives.
Okay, that's very, very correct. And that is the lesson we want us all to learn. Everybody is entitled to his or her own opinion because of the perspective in which individual is viewing any situation and circumstance. And with that, there won't be any cause for argument. I hope you agree with me, Daniel. Do you agree with me, please? Okay, with this, we come to the end of the icebreaker. And I'm going to share my screen now while I hand over to Olaomi, who will take us through the course for today. Thank you very much. Enjoy the course.
Good morning, Mr. Daniel. Hope you've been having a wonderful week.
Yes, Benedict.
Yes, yes.
At least it's getting warmer in Kenya.
Okay. So we're going to do a quick recap and look at what we did last week. Can we also my screen? Is my screen showing let's think together?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. So we looked at the threats about diversity. So Mr. Daniel, can you recall for us what we did last week?
Repeat the question, please. My network is not so clear.
Yeah, can you summarize what we did? What are the threats about diversity on your own, from your experience on your own horticulture farm now? What are the threats about diversity and what are the possible ways to solve them? Hello. Hello.
Yes, I can now get you. I was changing the network I was using.
Okay.
Can you
So
get me now?
yes, I can hear you loud and clear. So I said, on your own horticultural farm,
Yes.
what are the threats to biodiversity? And what are the possible ways to solve them from your own farm?
I would say the first one, threat by diversity, is the cultivation techniques. So some of the implements that we use will be having some impact on the biodiversity. So one of the ways to handle that is either to choose cultivation machinery that will be a bit fair to the other soil biodiversity. The other threat is the pesticides that are used, which we need to choose either to use biological pesticide, which will be a bit softer to the natural biodiversity. The other thing will be the fertilizer application if you're using the inorganic fertilizers. So we can work on other ways of improving, providing nutrients to the plants, either through use of manure, compost, and other things which are a bit soft on the biodiversity. Thank you, Benedict.
Thank you so much, Mr. Daniel. Madam Chido, welcome back. We understand where we are, so don't worry about your network at all. It's understandable. So my question is, from what we did on Monday, what are the threats to biodiversity on your home farm? And what are the possible ways you would like to solve them?
Okay, can you repeat the question again, please?
I said, what are the threats to biodiversity on your farm? And what are the possible ways of solving them?
Okay, I think the major one is overgrazing and deforestation, whereby people cut firewood okay, from other neighboring, like stealing firewood from other people's farms, which they use to cure tobacco. So I think the way to tackle this is to work with the government, because there's a legislation against that, to ensure that that law is enforced.
That's good. And another thing that you can do is that you can put some signage around your farm in the local language and put it like B1, no cutting of trees in this enterprise. If you are caught, you put something that can that people are afraid of in your country. So that's another method that you can put around the farm, especially areas that they go into to fell the trees, and then you can we can keep looking at them. We can keep looking at them.
Okay.
Yeah, that's another thing, because when people can read it in your local language, because the people going to do it are semi or illiterate, so but they can read in the local language. So when you put the message out in the local language, you can add some English to it. Let's say peradventure someone can also read in English or doesn't understand the local language, but I'm sure that about 70 to 80% of those doing it will understand the local language of that environment. And when you put it and put what they're afraid of, it will reduce. It won't stop. It will start reducing gradually. So that's a measure that we can do. Yes, thank you for the recap. And so we move on to today's session. So today we're going to look at the different farming systems. We're going to look at itinerant cultivation system. We're going to look at the semi-permanent cultivation system, the polyculture. We're going to look at permanent cultivation system, polyculture. We're going to discuss permanent cultivation system, monoculture. And we're going to look at the similarities and the differences between these systems. And then we're going to look at the perennial cultivation system. These are what we'll discuss. Then going to the breakout session, each group will now discuss the agroforestry system, the irrigated cultivation system, the organic cultivation system, and the agroecological cultivation system. So this four system will be discussed by us at the breakout session, but I will take us through the first five so that we have an understanding of what we need to do in the breakout session. So the itinerant cultivation system, but it's a polyculture. And like last week, we defined what monoculture is and polyculture is. Polyculture is a system whereby you plant many species of crops on a piece of land or on a plot, either on a farm level or on a plot. That is polyculture. So if you look at the itinerant cultivation system, the major brief about the system is that the system is allows seeds to be used by the farmers. It allows the farmers to produce their seeds. It's not against the law of a farmer cannot produce its own seeds. Then the plowing rudiments that are used are hoes and matrices with no negative impact on our soil structure. So they don't use heavy machineries on the farm. And then they do not rely on the use of mineral fertilizers and synthetic pesticides. These are not used. And so there is no negative impact on the water or the land resources. Then they do crop rotation. And then they combine a lot of crops together, and also they leave the land to fallow. So when the farm at the particular spot for a number of years, they will move to another spot. They leave it to fallow for a long period before coming back to this place. But if you look at the impact on the plot level, the impact on the plot level has negative and positive impact. The negative impact is that deterioration of soil fertility, because many of them don't add organic manure to the soil. They don't rejuvenate the soil. So there's this soil fertility is going to be reducing year in, year out until when they leave the land to fallow again. Then there's decrease in organic material in the soil and in the ability to retain water, because they're using the land over using the resources in the land. Then there's decrease in water infiltration, there's elimination of plant species, there's a decrease in plant diversity on the land, because now they're going to be cultivating the same crop over and over again, even though there are different types of crops they are cultivating. Then there is decrease in the number of animal species, because they know that they're going to leave that land for a number of years to follow. So they keep using that spot and so the animal species are extincted from that area. The positive impact is that when they leave it to fallow, there's recovery of soil fertility. Then there's partial recovery of the vegetation cover when they leave the land to fallow. And the repopulation of the fauna organisms and microorganisms in the soil and on the soil will come to play when they leave the land to fallow. And if we look at the impact on the landscape, that means on the entire community now that is there on their area, not just on the plots, but the landscape can be the entire farm, can be the neighboring community. The negative impact of this type of system is that it leads to deforestation, and then the silting of rivers and water sources, then destruction of ecological niches. You see, these are the negative impact of using this itinerant cultivation system. But on the larger impact on the landscape, it's preservation of crop diversity, because the farmers can grow their own seeds. Then they are able to grow a lot of crops that are that they want, because it is culturally acceptable to them. And then those crops also, the crops are very good for that area. So they grow very well in that area. So these are the impacts both on the plot level and on the landscape level, both negative and positive. So we move on to another system, the semi-permanent polyculture cultivation system. On this system, they leave the land to fallow, but not as long as the itinerant polyculture cultivation system. It's shorter than that. They also do crop rotation. They combine, a lot of crops are combined together, and there's low use of chemicals. So at this point, the chemical fertilizer has started setting in, but is at low usage. With this semi-permanent polyculture cultivation system, you are allowed to use, the person is using is using fertilizer and pesticide, synthetic pesticide at a low rate. And then you are still allowed to use your traditional seeds, but you are also allowed to use the improved seeds. So you see where hybrid seeds starts coming to play now. So from this, you'll be able to distinguish what type of system am I practicing on my farm, and what are the impact of it on the plot level and on the entire landscape of my farm. So that's why we are doing this exercise. So the impacts on the plots, what are the impact of this type of system on the plot? It decrease in the organic matter in the soil also, because they use the land over and over and over and over with little inputs of synthetic fertilizer returned back to the soil. There's increase in erosion because of the use of the land, and then deterioration of soil fertility. Then there's change, disappearance of insects, organisms, and microorganisms on the plot, because you have introduced chemical fertilizer into this system. So the insects, the organism will start disappearing because they don't like, or the synthetic inputs are dangerous to them. So they will start disappearing. But the positive impact of the plot is that there's partial recovery of soil fertility, because the land will be left to fallow for some time. So there is partial recovery of soil fertility. Then there's very partial recovery of the vegetation also cover, because you're going to leave it to fallow for some time. So the grasses, the weeds will start growing back. Then there's limited repopulation of the fauna because of the fallow period that the land will be left. So also, if we look at on the entire landscape now, what is this? What are the impact? We see that the negative impact is that significant negative changes to biodiversity start happening, because we have introduced a foreign input into the system. Then limited regeneration of the vegetation starts happening. Disappearance of many plants and animal species. That's what we see when we start putting the synthetic fertilizer and the synthetic, we start using synthetic pesticide. So if you look at the positive impact of this type of system, it's like it says that partial regeneration of the vegetation, because we're going to leave it to fallow for a short period. Then biological synergies between ecosystem components. There's going to be cooperation between the ecosystem components. Then preservation of water quality, but not the quantity, because the input is still at minimal usage. So the quality is still preserved, but the quantity of water is not preserved, because we can see that on the impact on the plot, there is a negative impact on, which is soil erosion. So when soil erosion happens also, it pollutes the water bodies. Then healthy food for the population, because there's still less use of synthetic inputs. So the food that will be grown, they will still be healthy. So let's move on to look at the other impact. Permanent polyculture cultivation system. So what kind of system is this system? It's a system whereby, if you hear the word permanent, it means that what you are growing is permanent. So majorly, those who are into tree crops are in this category. Those who are growing avocado, those who are doing oranges, citruses, those are the ones that are into this cocoa and the rest. Those are the people that the system is talking about. And one thing about permanent polyculture system is that there is also room for crop rotation, because even though you are planting trees, you can plant inside the trees also other crops. So you can plant trees and also have another section for other crops that are annual in it. And there's very short or non-existence of fallow period. Why we say short is where the space between your trees, you can decide to plant this season and another season you are not planting in it. You understand? So that's season you are not planting it. It's still very short, relatively short than for someone who will leave the entire field totally totally not used for some time. Then there is overexploitation of the plot. This is one of the disadvantage of the system, because the trees are there permanently and you cannot fell them. They are bringing in money, income. That's why we established them. So they are taking nutrients and water from the ground level over time. And many people, like said in the weeks before, that when they're planting tree crops, they forget to put soil nutrients that is required into the soil for these plants to flourish very well. Then simple plowing tools are used. Animal drawn plowing, these are the tools that are being used. Some organic matter management system are being practiced in this kind of system. Then limited use of chemical products also, and then the use of traditional or improved seeds is allowed, and introduction of limited irrigation system. So let's look at the impact on the plot level. The impact on the plot level is that significant deterioration of the vegetation, because you are going to fall off all the trees that are there before, and you're going to start establishing new trees or new crops there. Then there's low rates of rainwater infiltration in the ground, because once you plant your tree crops, there's no way to aerate the soil again, and because you have started using the synthetic chemical products now, which is going to have adverse effects on the soil. So aeration is going to be limited in this type of system in the soil. Then there's significant erosion that is going to take place, and significant soil deterioration is going to start setting in this type of system. So if we look at the positive side, we'll see that preservation of crop diversity is one positive impact on the plots level. And then varietal diversity, because you can do different trees on the same plot, and then you can also plant annual crops in between the trees. Then diversity of pollinating insects, because you have different trees crops, and also you have different annual crops in between, then you know that you're going to have diverse pollinating insects that will come around. Then diversification of human food, because you have different things planted, because it's polyculture, you are able to feed yourself or your family or people you sell to diverse crops, and not just one type of crops. The impact on the landscape, the negative impacts are that deterioration of the vegetation cover, water and land resources, yes, starts happening at this stage, because of the introduction of the chemical and the synthetic input, and because of you start using some form of machinery, mechanization, you start setting in use of mechanization, even though it's not on the high side, but it's still, it's allowed in this type of system. Then silting of waterways, lakes and ponds, because you start using the synthetic inputs now, the silting of waterways, lakes and ponds from the soil erosion that is going to take place on the plots level. Then if you continue to look at it, say drying out of waterways, lakes and ponds, this is one impact of this system, because now you have started introducing also irrigation. And if irrigation, if you don't have your own water source, you are using water from the lakes and the pond, then the water level is going to start reducing. Also, no more fallow period. So it's a continuous system. You continue to use the land. You are not going to leave it to fallow at any point in time. So there is disappearance of natural vegetation and pastures that will come up naturally in that environment. Then there's disappearance of multi-use plant species also, and disappearance of aquatic and land animal species in the system. The positive impact is that there is preservation of crop diversity because you are planting diverse crops now. So there is the preservation of crop diversity, and there is varietal diversity, and there's diversity of pollinating insects also at the landscape level. And also there is diversification of food for the human because you are planting different things. Ayo, please, did you check on Daniel because he went off and he's not back? And other participants, they are coming in.
Yes, I'm chatting him up now.
Okay, thank you. So another system is the permanent monoculture cultivation system. In this type of system, almost non-existence of fallow period also, because it's monoculture. We explained on Monday what monoculture is, and there's overexploitation of the plots, a single crop system. Because it's monoculture, you cannot do diversification, and that also means that there's no biodiversity on your land, and no crop rotation because you've started planting trees now. So there's no diversification on your plots. There's no diversification on your plots, and there's heavy use of chemical at this permanent monoculture, because also you are doing one single crop. And so there is increase in the use of chemical products because there's no natural ways that you can that can help your farm. There's less pollination. Then because you are doing monoculture, you're going to have the pest and disease rates higher because it is monoculture. Then improve or genetically modified seeds are allowed in this type of system, and average large plots. They are averagely large plots and not just one, so people can have like 50 acres or 100 acres of a particular one commodity. Little to significant there's significant mechanization has started setting. What are the negative impact on the plots level and negative and positive impact on the plots level? The negative impact on the plots level is that there's change in the soil structure. There's going to be change in the soil structure because you have started using heavy use of the chemical inputs now, and then you started mechanizing. Then substantial reduction in plant species. This is going to happen. Definitive disappearance of certain wild animals because now you're doing monoculture, and so there's not going to be, that diversity within the system. Then proliferation of plant disease is going to happen. So what are the positive? Like I said last week, every system has positive and negative impacts on the landscape and on the plots level. So what are the positive impact? There's partial restoration of soil fertility via the use of mineral and organic fertilizer, and there's relatively high crop yield. There's relatively high crop yield because you have started introducing chemical fertilizer into the system. Then what are the impacts on the landscape? What are the negative impacts on the landscape? There's increased deforestation, because you're going to open up the entire system of your land for planting, because now you want to put in mechanization. So this is what is going to start happening. You are going to see deforestation occurring gradually on your farm. Then there's soil deterioration, because you started at this system, there's heavy use of chemical fertilizer. There's going to be deterioration of the soil. Acidification will start coming to place because you're using synthetic products, which at the end of the day will make the soil more acidic over time. Then there's pollution of land and water resources from the synthetic heavy use, from the heavy use of the synthetic products. You're going to pollute the water body, you're going to pollute the land and the environment at even the landscape. Then destruction of contamination of fishes. We know that once the water body is contaminated or the water body are polluted, then there's going to be contamination of the fishes. And then there's disappearance of several plant species in the system. So these are the impacts, negative impacts on the landscape. Then we look at the positive impact. The positive impact is that you can still do crop rotation when you plant, when you have other annual crops planted in between. That is the only positive impact. But if you do not have annual crops planted in between, that means you do not have any positive impact on the landscape. So the only way to have positive impact, and remember that we said earlier that you need to be able to write out, when we're talking about legislation, you need to be and the standards, that you need to be able to write out what are the impacts of your projects for your certification. These are things that they're beginning to ask now. What are the impacts? So you must have a negative impact and you must have a positive impact. So if your system does not have any positive impact, we need to introduce what can bring a positive impact into that system that you are practicing. Mr. Timothy, good morning.
Morning, ma.
Yes, sir. So we cannot find Chido and Nobu today. Hope they are doing very well.
Chinedu.
Sorry,
They are doing
Chinedu.
good. We had a bit of a network challenge in the family. So I'm using my personal network, because the farm network is.
Okay, so why can't they all come together to you and then join you? If there's network issue and you are able to join, so you can call them from the okay.
Yes,
All right. Okay. Great to know that they are there. Okay. So we'll go on by discussing what is the difference between the impact of biodiversity at the plot level and the landscape level in your horticultural farm. What is the difference now between the plot level? We have discussed this before. What is the difference between impacts of biodiversity at the plot level and the impact of biodiversity at the landscape level in your horticulture farm? So over to you, Mr. Timothy. You have 1 minute to discuss. We are all going to share our knowledge on this.
I think in relation to the size, the diversity on plot level should be like minimal than compared to the landscape. Or better say, I don't think am I in the right direction? Is the answer in the right direction?
Continue, I'm listening to you.
So I think the impact should be more severe with the landscape level than the plot level.
What kind of impacts? You are relating this to your own farm, not the general knowledge now. That's why I said in your horticultural farm, where you are now. So what is the impact of biodiversity at the plot level and at the landscape level for your farm?
In terms of what? What are the conditions?
It's a general condition. What is the impact of
biodiversity? Is it the
biodiversity?
productivity, the soil fertility, or what?
that's why I said it's general. You tell
Okay.
us whether you want to talk on soil fertility or you want to talk on production. Yes. But the
Okay.
impact of
Now,
biodiversity.
okay. So the impact of biodiversity at the okay. I think when like the use of heavy fertilizers, like excessive use of fertilizers and pesticides, we actually reduce the productivity rate of the land in the plot level. And on the general term, on the landscape, that I think that should increase the actual cost of production.
Okay.
I think I'm in the right direction because I just
Yeah, you're making sense. So if you want to look at use of fertilizer on your farm, for example, the impact on the landscape is that there's pollution. There's going to be pollution of your water bodies and the pollution of the land.
Okay.
Yes, because as you're spraying, you are not just spraying your farm, you're spraying the entire landscape, because this input it diffuse into the air, and so it's being carried away into other areas that you have not even sprayed. And then when it rains, this is also carried into the water bodies. This is also carried into the water bodies. So these are the negative impacts that is going to have on your landscape. But the positive thing is that, yes, your production will increase because it is, you are using synthetic products. So your production will increase, but there's going to be negative impacts. So, Madam Chido.
Okay. I think I got it.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
So what's the difference between the impact of biodiversity at the plot level and at the landscape level in your farm?
Okay, what I can say is that we have greenhouses which we are using to multiply our sweet potato vines.
Okay.
And we are using organic practice. So the impact is that if our seedlings overgrow before we take them out, they kind of breed a lot of insects. And we don't have, we are still learning on what organic pesticides to use. So that can create a problem, like in the landscape or other fields around. If they are growing something, it means that they've bred a particular pest to bother them, you know, in large quantities on a short time. Because in the greenhouse, something can multiply very quickly in a very short time, and it can be, a big problem. So even if we might say we uproot, we remove everything in the greenhouse and start all over again, but it means that these pests which would have bred, they are going somewhere. So that's how it will then affect maybe the landscape, that there is a high volume of a particular pest which normally would not have been in those large numbers had we not contributed in their breeding process.
Yes. So we'll move on quickly. Noble said on the chat that the impact is negative for his own horticultural farm because the natural landscape has been negatively affected during the cultivation of the plots, and the arboreal animals are scarcely found due to the felling of trees. Then he says that although our production is improved and enhanced through the use of pesticide, both harmful and beneficial insects are killed. So one of the advantages of having this course is for us to start thinking, how do we reduce this impact? Even though we want to increase our production, even though we want to increase our income, how do we work with nature that we are able to reduce the impact or the negative impact, both on our plots and on our landscape? So we'll talk now about the perennial cultivation system. This is plantation. When we talk about coffee trees, palm trees, they say coconuts that they can stay for about 25 to 30 years. They are hybrid ones, and then the traditional ones can stay for longer period. So this is a type of system that is being used for such plantation. Then we have no plowing, but weeding is being done in the perennial cultivation system. And then there's significant plant debris because they are tree crops mainly, and so their leaves decompose on the soil. And then the tallgrass system is being practiced, and this can be combined with other crops, trees, and livestock. And there's also use of insecticides here. The negative impacts on the plots level is that animal species decreases if the use of insecticide is not regulated. So depending on how we use the insecticide, it has to be regulated. And also, if we use the insecticide with biological insecticide and we try to combine them, then there's minimal negative impacts on the plot level. The positive impact is that there's soil conservation because we are planting trees. There's soil conservation. Then the soils are rich in organic matter because decomposition is happening. As the leaves are falling, then we allow them naturally to decompose and enrich our soil. Then there's increased water infiltration and better ability to retain water because now we are able to, the organic matter in our soil is increasing. Then there is increase in the ability of the soil to retain water, which is very, very important for people who want their soil to be healthy. Then there's presence of organisms and microorganisms, because if water table or the soil ability to retain water is increasing, then you're going to have more microorganisms in the soil. And then there's presence of insects and mollusks. So if we look at the impact on the landscape, we have the negative impact that food imbalances for certain animal species is there. So there is imbalance in the system, but the positive impact on the landscape is preservation of water and land resources, because we are planting trees now, which is going to stay for a long period. Then the waterways, lakes, and ponds are protected against silting because the leaves and the prunings of the trees are left there, and then we allow them to decay and add organic material back into the soil. These are able to increase the organic matter of our soil. And then this helps also to increase the soil fertility of the soil, and which then leads to the preservation of water and the land resources, which will reduce the silting in our soil. Then the waterways, lakes, and ponds are protected. Then partial recovery of ecological niches and corridors. These are the impacts of perennial cultivation system on the landscape. So now we're just going to discuss this from your horticultural farm, tell us two positive, you can write two positive and two negative impact on the plot and negative and landscape. It's almost the same thing with the exercise we just finished, but think about it, what you have not said, what you have not mentioned. Mr. No, oh, sorry, your net, you can type Mr. Noble. So Madam Chido.
Hello, I was still thinking, okay, what I may think of is that, for example, if you have set up greenhouses, it means that the area you have provided for good drainage systems and everything, so there is no risk of of soil erosion. And also the other positive thing is that you are not over exploiting water. Water is used specifically for where it should be. So you are also playing a role in the conservation of water. And then the negative impact, it's the negative impact can be greenhouse gases increase. And also the other negative impact is it's a monoculture cultivation in a way that you are doing the same seedlings year in, year out. So there's no variety from what you are doing. And you might have a problem of a disease, coming and then affecting the whole crop, and also the disease is spreading to the neighboring farms.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to go into a breakout session now. And then in the breakout session, we are going to discuss each person. Now we look at the agroforestry system, and then you're going to look at the impact on the landscape and the impact on the plot level. And then you are going to look at the negative impact and then the positive impact, both on the plot level and on the landscape level. We're going to do this for, because it's individual now, so it's not discussion. We are going to do this for 10 minutes. So just write down what you think are the impacts. I'm going to open the breakout session. What are the impacts of the topic you have been given on the plot level and on the landscape level, both the negative and the positive impact? So I am going to open the breakout room, and then you should please move to your breakout room. Thank you. This is going to last for 10 minutes. For 20 minutes, sorry, it's going to last us for 20 minutes. And then we'll Welcome back, Mr. Daniel. We understand how network could be frustrating at times. So once we have the recording, we can look at those aspects that you missed out. So thank you all for coming back. And hope we were able to think aloud by ourselves and were able to jot down some few points. So who is going to go first? Mr. Timothy, are you ready to go first? Mr. Noble, you can put your thoughts into the chat box and then I will read it out. Mr. Timothy, over to you, please.
All right. The topic was irrigated and cultivated system. So I was able to just have some few points on the plot. I said one of the negative impacts that we have on plot level is that heavy metals are deposited on the land due to over irrigation, and then groundwater level now has been reduced or lowered by pumping from the bowls and the likes. So heavy metals are deposited on the land on the land and this will actually bring about salinity impact. Then I have one positive impact on the plot, which is the growing of crops on land that was unable to sustain agriculture under rain-fed. Under rain-fed conditions are now are actually coming to a state like we have the crops that cannot be grown under rain-fed condition can actually now be grown with irrigation means. Then more intensive growing of existing crops because of you can produce all year round. So those are the points I was able to gather on the plots. Then I have on landscape, on the entire landscape. One of the negative impacts I have is river flow have been altered or reduced because you created a dam. Let's assuming we created a dam and we actually channeled the river to the dam so as to have enough water during the dry season. So river flow, through these river flows have been altered and reduced. Then
Thank
the
you.
general ground, I can stop there?
No, continue.
Okay. So the general groundwater level have been lowered, which I've actually mentioned before. The general groundwater level now have been lowered by pumping. Then one of the positive impacts that we have on landscape is that increase in general productivity for the growing population. Those are the things I was able to just highlight.
Okay, thank you so much. Madam Chido, you did organic cultivated system.
Okay. Okay, thank you. For the organic production system, the positive on the plot is that there is no use of synthetic fertilizers. So the soil is not contaminated by the chemical fertilizers. And there is also no use of pesticides. So it means that the soil and the water bodies, and they are not negatively affected by the presence of pesticides, which might also be harmful to other microorganisms and also to the animals. And then the other thing is that there is a great encouragement to use manure and compost. And then manure and compost, they actually add nutrients to the to the soil, and it improves the soil texture and structure, and improves the water retention, and also it helps in the controlling soil erosion. And then crop rotation is also encouraged, and especially with the crop rotation with other crops which are nitrogen fixing, for example, beans. So which means that the crop rotation actually adds nutrients to the soil. Generally, it is encouraged that most of the things in terms of nutrients which you use on the farm, you should be able to produce it on your farm. So it is a method which is sustainable. And because of the use of compost manure, and in our country we also use something which we call murakwani. Murakwani is like we have got a lot of musasa trees in some areas, and these musasa trees, they shed their leaves like during winter, this time of year. So it means that under these trees, there's a lot of very rich soil. So people, they go and take that, and then it becomes a part of your manure. So which means that in terms of biodiversity, the natural biodiversity is actually complementing your organic farming. Okay, the use of this improves the soil structure. And the negative aspect is that because we in organic farming, people are trying different methods of controlling, say, pesticides and making own pesticides and so forth. And not much studies have been done about some of these organic pesticides. So others are of the feeling that these some of the organic pesticides might be harmful to the landscape, because not much studies have been done into it, because it looks like the organic production process is the commercial aspect of it. It's more like a new thing. So more studies have not been done of the impact of those pesticides which we make at home. Because the yield generally in organic farming is low, it means that farmers have to clear more land to be able to do the organic farming. So there is more land which then goes into organic production, because the yield is low. So more land is required if you want to do the volumes. And there is also some people who have, there are some debates where some people are saying that some of the manure which is used, depending on what you've used to make those manures, there might be harmful microbes in it. So further research has to be done to find out whether that is harmful to the general landscape, whether we are introducing other harmful microbes to the system. Yeah, that's all which I found. I said it was difficult to find negatives on organic farming.
Okay, thank you so much, Madam Chido. So this brings us closely to the end of the session. But like I said, every system has both negative and positive impact. You said it's difficult to have negative impacts on organic, but one of the negative impacts is on the plot level is lower crop yield. You mentioned it already than with conventional agriculture, because the soil builds up over time. It's not a system whereby everything happens suddenly and then the crop starts growing immediately. It's a gradual increase of soil nutrients into the soil. So the availability of it for the plant to take it up is also gradual too. Over time, your soil will build up as you continue to use more of organic resources. And then on the landscape level, one of the impacts, negative impact, is that it's limited use of the space available to enable crop rotation and fallow period. Fallow period is not useful in is not done in organic agriculture. Then Mr. Noble said that he did agroecology, and that at the plot level, the negative impact is that soil properties are distorted, soil faunas and floras are affected also. But it's said that the positive impact is there is expansion of production area and yields are increased. So those are his comments on agroforestry. So on the e-learning platform, this is already there, and then we can see what are the impact for the ones that we discuss. We can see the impact on the plot level and on the landscape level there. So the all topic for this week is threats to biodiversity and the impact of agriculture systems that we practice. So based on this, we've been able to see regulations, how regulations and standards are being formed and how it is needed on our horticultural farm for both domestic and international operations. And then this has made us to start thinking of knowing all these laws also that impact on the agricultural system that we do and biodiversity as is specific to this course. And then we looked at the different farming systems also that we currently practice on our farm. Like we mentioned on Monday, I asked us to mention some of the practices that we do, and we were able to see that some are doing monoculture, while some are doing polyculture, some are doing monoculture on a plot, but the entire system is a polyculture. So this brings us to the end of this life set for the class for week 3, and then I will stop sharing my screen and then hand over to Ayo. Ayo, over to you, please.
Thank you very much, Olawumi. Thank you to you participants that are able to contribute. We understand some hitches are there for some of the participants that were unable to contribute. We quite understand them. Quickly, I'm going to take us through the e-learning platform and show us what we need to do in the course of the week and the weekend. I also understand that some of the participants have not attempted week 2 exercises. We want to encourage all to do so. So please permit me to share my screen while I take you through the routine week 3 e-learning, e-learning platform for week 3 activities. Okay, I believe you can all see my screen here now. So far so good. Allow me, I've been able to take us through the identify method and techniques that makes it possible to reduce impacts, restore and increase biodiversity on our horticultural farms. And we'll be able to achieve the following objectives, 4 of them. So if you scroll down, you will be able to see this Chrome. If you can see my cursor very well now, you see this Chrome. This is what we refer to as Chrome. Threats to biodiversity and impacts of production system. If you open it, you will see everything Olawumi has been able to share with us. It's only the experiences that are not there, but every other things you'll be able to see it's there. Then the PowerPoint presentation she used is also right here. You can see it, PPT, identify methods and techniques. Then if you go over to H5P, this is a presentation on video, strictly video. So you can watch these videos to enhance your knowledge on these identifying impacts and methods. Then you can also test your knowledge, your understanding on the mini quiz concerning the topic that has just been treated. That I advise you do as quick as possible so that you will not forget what you have learned. And to the week 3 exercise, some of us have done it, while some are still pending the exercise. I want to advise you do it. I'm going to share my screen now and share with you what is expected of you to do in the week 3 exercise. Please permit me to unshare my screen now while I show you what you need to do in the week 3 exercise. Okay. For the week 3 exercise, let me enlarge my screen. Okay. This, you will see exercise 4 once you open it, presentation of the agroecological characteristics of the farm. And if you go through it, you will see activity 1 and activity 2. These are the things you are expected to do. This is just one of it. There is another one, exercise 5. I'm going to share my screen and share that one also. Okay. So if you can see my screen, this is the other one, impact of agricultural activities on biodiversity at farm. Allow me to ask us. So if you go through it, you will see activities which include 1 and 2. It's just to test what we all do on our various farms. And with this, you'll be able to attempt all the questions. So please permit me to go to the e-learning platform again, while I share with you the text your knowledge. So I'm going to share with you test your knowledge. In the next 2 minutes, I'll be done. Okay. Now, if you go to the learning platform, you scroll through and you come down here to test your knowledge. If you open it, if you open on your next, just right click and it will open another icon for you with that click is coming up. Please pardon the slow rate at which is coming up. So like I explained to you now, the exercise 4 and 5 are there for you to just attempt, and they are just too simple. They are everything Allow Me has taken us on. Then for some of us that have not attempted exercises 3 and 4, exercises 2 and 3 that was carried out, that's expected to be done last week. Please do well to do them. So as a facilitator, I may not be able to go through it, but once you open it, it's going to take you to this place and it's going to tell you attempt quiz now. Because I'm a facilitator, it's telling me to preview quiz now, as if I want to add to it or I want to remove from it. But for you as a participant, it's going to tell you to attempt quiz now. So please do well to attempt them. And they are quite simple. They are everything you've been taught so far. And once you do all of these things, you are on the way to completing the exercise for the week. So let me stop sharing my screen from here. May I give room for 1 or 2 questions, particularly people that have not been able to attend the online exercises? Is there any way we can assist you in the next 1 minute, because we just have 2 minutes left? Is there any way we can assist you with the exercises that are expected to be done? I understand that some of us have done it, but for as many have not done it, please, can you quickly come up with anything you want us to do for you? Is there anybody talking? Timothy, Is there any assistance you want us to give to you concerning the exercise?
No assistance. It's just that most of the exercises are more practical, like practical oriented. That's it. No,
Oh.
I don't have any problem.
Okay, I can see your question here. You say you need more clarification on exercises 4 and 5. I'll give you, okay, how to go about it. I'll give you a chart on it, and I'm going to give a chart. The chart will be general for every one of us. So I will switch over to the WhatsApp to do all of that. And with this, we have come to the end of week 3 training course. And I want to believe you have gained 1 or 2 things. Yes, allow me to say something.
Yes, please, Ayo. So Mr. Timothy was talking about the course, the assignments being practical. So we intentionally did it so that it's practical. You'll be able to do it as it implies to your horticultural farm. If you had put a theoretical assignment there, you can go to the internet and just find the answer. But that doesn't mean you understand what you are being asked to do or you are writing. But this one, this one will enhance your knowledge and will give you understanding as you attempt there. You are looking at the animals, you are writing yourself, oh, this animal is in my farm, this crop is in my farm. So it's very basic things that is around you that you just need to do. They are very basic, as Ayo has said. Thank you, Ayo.
All right. With this, we come to the end of week 3 training course on sustainable management of biodiversity. I want to believe you have taken 1 to 3 things which are going to be applicable and beneficial to your various farms. So thank you very much. We applaud your commitment to this training course. Thank you and have a very great, nice weekend. And I say bye-bye from here.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.